What do you see when you look back on your early writing that still continues to be very popular? You say you had no hits, but there's certainly songs of yours that endure and have endured for decades. They were written at a different time in your life. How do you see that now with some perspective? Do they still appear the same to you, or do you see them in a different light?
The biggest continuing thread is love. I write love songs over and over. I've written tons of them, and that's okay with me. Sometimes songs engender streams of communication. Interesting to look back on, like Wooden Ships. Things are getting kind of screwed up. We're going to sail away to someplace where it'll be better. Inspired Jackson to write For Every Man. It's a direct answer, and that gives you some perspective. You say, well, what about all those of us who don't have a sailing boat, David? I look back on the things that I've said, and I don't think we were wrong about a whole lot of stuff. I think the ideas that we espoused in the '60s are probably mostly right. The main thing we were wrong about was drugs. Hard drugs absolutely, completely ruin you. They ruin your creativity, they ruin your life, they ruin your family, they ruin everything, they ruin your health. We were wrong about that. Not wrong about civil rights, not wrong about women's rights, not wrong about war being terrible.
There are so many musicians who produced great music under the influence of drugs of various types. And sometimes people looking back say that was their best period, when they were most tortured and most under the influence. Is there any currency to that, or is that?
I don't think so. I think it's a thing that a lot of musicians say. They have to have tortured lives because that's where they're out of the turmoil comes the most. It's bull. You look at Coltrane. You look at great musicians, stunners. You look how many we lost. Let's look at that. Janis, Jimmy, Cass. Friends of mine. How good would Janis Joplin be singing by now? How good would Jimi Hendrix be playing by now? How hard could John Belushi make you laugh by now if they hadn't killed themselves with hard drugs? And so no, I don't give any currency to it at all. I don't give any credence to that theory at all. My own personal experience was the more hard drugs I did, the less I wrote. And your writing is a direct window into your soul. And at a certain point, the drug use got so intense that the writing stopped. And it wasn't until I stopped the drug use, forcibly by being put in prison, that the writing came back. I can only draw one conclusion from that. Those numbers are pretty incontrovertible. How do you argue with that? I did more and more drugs until I couldn't write, stopped doing the drugs, the writing came back. I can only draw one conclusion.
I've talked to a number of recovering musicians, and what's interesting is that I think, as far as that theory goes, it relates to people like Jimmy and Janis, who in fact had no further chapter to their lives, and so their great production was prior to their deaths. But the people who've come through and recovered create beautiful things and lead worthwhile lives.
Jeez, look at James Taylor. Lord of mercy, he's one of the best singer-songwriters of this century. Look at Bonnie. Used to be a quart-a-day drunk. Look at her. Look how she is since she got sober. Give me a break. She's the best singer in the world. I think you think you hit the nail on the head. They say, well, it was a great period. Well, that was because they were young, and at the most intense period of creativity they were going to have, it would have been way better if they hadn't been carrying that load. What they would have done if they hadn't would have been much more intense and lasted a whole lot longer. That's my feeling about it. And I could get a whole lot of people to tell you that they agree with me, who are pretty good creators of music.